What's up, and welcome back to Don't Quote Us Sports, the podcast with bold takes, bad stats, and zero accountability. Another jam packed episode today. OKC Thunder are officially world champs, though the basketball gods might have nudged them over the finish line with Halliburton's Achilles blowing out like a birthday candle. But we also need to talk about that celebration because if the parade is any gets any lamer, it might just start applying for a desk job. Then we shift to trade season madness. Katie is headed to Houston in the league's most chaotic retirement tour yet. The Celtics are pawning off key pieces like it's tax season, and the Pelicans and Wizards just swapped two of the most why does he still have value guards in the league? Oh, and let's not forget the NBA draft kicks off tomorrow night. Well, we're breaking down a few under the radar prospects who might we think might just cook the league in a couple years or flame out in 20 games, but don't quote us on that. And to wrap it up, we're heading to the AFC South for our next round of NFL previews. You'll just have to stick around to see which team we discuss first. So grab your takes, hold the facts, and let's get into it. This is Don't Quote Us Sports. Okay, guys, but let's jump right into the action and let's give our flowers to the OKC Thunder, your newest world champions.
Congratulations to the city of Oklahoma City. Congrats.
That's a tongue twister right there.
To the city of Oklahoma City. Yeah, that felt right.
Yeah, depending who you ask, but yeah, I think I can speak for all of us, and that series ended up being a lot closer and more electric than even we possibly could have hoped for going into the start of it. But I've felt like OKC was kind of playing with their food just a little bit throughout that series. Finally take them out game 7. Although I feel like we do need to touch on the elephant in the room in Halliburton's injury, because up until that injury, dude was already had three threes. The dude was shooting lights out. He ended the game, I believe, with the most made threes for Indiana. So I just keep coming back to what could have been, because I didn't tell you guys this, but I've been talking to some other people. Before that game, my opinion was it was going to be a neck and neck game coming down to the final possession. OKC was going to have a lead, or it was tied, and Tyrese was going to come in and hit one more game winner to seal it.
Oh, you thought that magic was like that, huh? You were out here writing Hollywood endings, huh?
I
You
was
believed in Hallie, baby.
I was fully prepared for it, and to see him go down with that injury right at the beginning of the game, just dagger right to the heart. Just feel for the guy, man, right?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Rob. Hit him, Rob. Hit him.
I was going to say, at least for as far as the series in general, I think we all, if not, I know Irv and I predicted that OKC. I think we all predicted OKC was going to take it, myself included. I just wanted a good series. I do think we got a good series, the best we could have got. I think that last game, even with the Halliburton, is the most watched finals game in 6 years or something like that. Which, when you think about it, at the a couple weeks ago, last week we were talking about how the finals was dog shit. So the series was better than what we could have expected. I agree with Isaiah, though. I don't know. It's unfortunate for Halliburton. We all feel for Halliburton. It's for that guy to go down like that in that moment. It reminded me of when KD went down with the Warriors in the finals. But the sad part is, you don't know when you're going to get back to that point, right? You don't know if you're going to get back to that point, if you're going to have that chance again. So I feel for Halliburton in a big way, whether you're a fan of him or not. If it happened to anybody, I would feel the same way. But OKC, I told her the other day, I was like, OKC was this all year. I mean, they were beating teams by 20, 30 points all year long, just coasting. So it's like, if anyone deserves it, I mean, it's OKC. I mean, it's NBA's in a weird spot, man. I mean, we've had so many different winners the last 8-9 years, and NBA is just I think it's in a good spot. It's gone away from the super team and dynasty era. Um, it's in a weird spot, but I'm not mad about it. Also, with Herb, shout out OKC. It's good for the city. I wish it was in Seattle. But I was reading through some tweets today because, like Isaiah mentioned before, is the parade. The parade's a parade, man. The city's happy. I saw some tweets that
Bro,
it's the most people.
that parade sucked, dude. And that's what sucks. That parade fucking sucked.
Everything
think
about
this
their
is like the-
celebration sucked ass.
I think this is the Barkley thing for you, Irby. I saw some angles. I was reading an article before this. Multiple tweets of people saying, "I've never seen this many people in our city." Um,
I hope
And
that's true.
Obviously, you're not going to get as big of a trade as if it's or big as a parade if it's in a big city. Good for OKC. I mean, it's not a sports town by any means. It's all they have there. Good for them, man. I think we're going to see OKC up in the West for the years to come, unless something crazy happens.
I've been saying that. I've been saying on that.
Okay, the question I need to ask you guys, though, to really get your brains turning, do you think it almost would have been better for Indiana to just lose in Game 6, knowing what they know now with Halliburton?
Then losing Halliburton for all of next year? Yeah.
In a wide
Easy.
in a wide open Eastern Conference where they could very easily get back to this point with a fully healthy roster.
Dude, I don't think that even in a ultra competitive East they would want to ever. They would absolutely trade. Fuck it, losing Game 6, but we have to keep Hallie next year. Granted, we talked about how Hallie disappears, but like him popping that Achilles took all of the air out of the whole building and out of the game. It didn't feel like a Game 7, but it was a Game 7. Yeah, they would absolutely trade off. Fuck it, losing 6.
I agree. I take an opposite approach to the game, though. I mean, they were leading at half. They still had some gas in the tank, but all that other support cast just failed to hold up their end of the bargain, man. You had multiple. I think you had one of them foul out. I mean, it was the last 5 minutes was really ugly, but up until half, so about a quarter ish, it was good basketball, even without Hallie. But yeah, they fell apart. Siakam didn't take control. Urban and I were watching it. We were just saying that someone needs to take leadership here and be that guy, and no one did it. It's unfortunate for them, but I think they would take it. Obviously, I don't think Hallie will be out a full year based on depending on how their year goes. But it's definitely at least 8-10 months for sure. But the bad part about that, I will add, and I feel for him, is he is young, which is a factor. But some people are never the same after that, and that's a sad way to look at it. Some people thought Kobe was just never had that explosiveness that he used to have.
Okay,
But also
in fairness,
his
he
age.
tore his at like 36.
Yes, his age. But you just the thing is you just never know. And there's a great chance he comes back and is the same guy, but there's also a chance he's a little different.
And on top of that, he was the third player in this postseason alone to tear his Achilles. Dame, Tatum, Hallie, all wear number 0, by the way, oddly enough.
That's a curse right there. That's a curse. Nope, that's it. 4 dudes. That's it.
But what are your guys' opinions on? I know there's been a lot of opinions out there related to playing with a calf strain because it feels like it is almost a foregone conclusion that if you are playing on a calf strain, your likelihood of tearing your Achilles is going up significantly at this point. And I've seen some former NBA players kind of treating it like how NFL players treat concussions almost, where until you know for sure, like, you do not risk it type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think to your point, I looked up, because I knew that he had the calf injury, and obviously you mentioned the other guys that also had the similar injury, and I read a report that some doctors and some surgeons kind of signed off on that. Just like you said, when players are playing through calf injury, the chance of them popping that Achilles goes up tremendously. But then you also sit back and say, I'm in the NBA finals. It is tough to say, hey, I'm going to sit out these finals. I'm going to sit out till this injury gets better. But I feel like injuries, they happen every year, but this year just felt weird, right? You had Anthony Edwards get injured. You had Ja Morant. I mean, you had almost, it seems like
Yeah,
each team, the
Steph.
superstar was battling. So, yeah, Steph. Seems like every team had something going on that was pretty significant that kind of affected the game to a certain extent,
Except OKC.
except OKC.
Something in the water. But yeah, I mean, if Halliburton is half the competitor that I think we all believe him to be, there was no shot in hell where he was missing game 7. I talked about it, I think last week, of like, if you're not 100% to go and you're making the team worse by being out there, don't go. Game 7 in the finals changes that quite a bit, in my opinion. So I don't blame Hallie or the Pacers for sending him out there. It's unfortunate. It fucking sucked. It was a good basketball game, Rob. You weren't lying, but did it feel like a game 7 or did it feel like a Wednesday night in December?
I think it teetered off towards the end. Before we do move on about I do want to give a shout. TJ McConnell, man, that guy. I do want to say coming in for Hallie after that, and honestly, all series, there was rumor that he might have, if they won, he could have won the MVP of the series just by the minutes that he played and how productive they were. I don't know what he finished with, but I think when I looked to see how the Pacers are doing during the game, I think he had 16 or 18 points leading the team, and you're like, this guy to come off the bench and provide those kind of minutes. But for the Pacers, there's got to be Siakam, all that. You got to step up, man. You just have to. I'm not saying they would have won, but no one wants to see, and OKC did let off the gas a little bit, but no one wants to see a 25, 30 point. Because honestly, when you look at Halliburton, that void, obviously the void of everything getting sucked out of the room and the injury and how that affects the team, I get all that. But McConnell backfilled Halliburton's points. If you think about it, that what Halliburton averages. Obviously, you don't get the rebounds and assists and things like that, but the rest of the team just wasn't there, unfortunately.
But that leads into back to OKC. We gotta talk about this celebration. What? Yes, I understand it was a blowout towards the end. Like, it was a foregone conclusion with about, probably 8 minutes left in that game. But, dude, the final buzzer goes off, final horn goes off, and it's just like a regular season game. They're just dapping up the Pacers mid-court. I didn't see the Thunder, group up at all to, cheer or anything,
It didn't feel like a game 7. Like I said, that was mind-boggling. I thought that place would have exploded. I mean, absolutely blown the roof off the place. Why wouldn't you? That didn't make any fucking sense to me, whatsoever.
Dude, I saw a report afterwards. I forgot who it was from, but they said that, usually when you go into a team's locker room that just won a championship, a couple hours later or the next day or whatever, it's just a fucking shit show. There's just crap everywhere, drinks everywhere, empty cans, whatever, you name it, essentially. They said they went in there a couple hours later and there was maybe 8 empty champagne bottles, a couple empty beers, and that was it, essentially. It looked like somebody just kind of strolled in real quick and hopped out.
See,
what?
I look at it opposite of you guys. I like it. I like the aspect of it. I think to them it's a business. How? For one, some of the guys don't drink. So there's
Jalen Williams did come out and say that he had his first drink ever post game.
Yeah.
Even
So
if you
you have
don't
some of the
drink, you can
guys
still
that-
look like you have fun.
I mean, to think about it, like I think they act like we've been here before. Like they already have,
But they haven't.
but they haven't. But they're acting like it. They have that maturity. They already had the buses ready before the game.
What a fucking ballsy move that was.
Okay, we actually
What a
have to talk
move that
about-
paid off.
We actually have to talk about that. Is that the latest NBA conspiracy? Like, was the script already written?
It's scripted.
No, it's.
The whole thing is
I want it to be
written.
known I do not side with these two.
Unless
They're not-
there is another clip that shows regular ass buses that they were prepared to use in case they lost, that is for sure scripted.
I think that they went into that game with utter confidence, and I think that the wrap it took to wrap those buses is pennies on the dollar. To, hey boys, we're in the
OKC
locker room. Hey
has one of
boys, we
the-
already got the buses. We got the buses ready. We're ready to roll, man. It's that confidence going into a game. The banner's already hung type beat. I think that's how they went about it. Because if let's say you do lose, it is going to look bad, but I mean, you paid for a wrap. At the end of the day, it's worth the risk, in my opinion. If it motivates your guys to go out there and win, hey, we already won it. We got the fucking trophy going. Go finish it. Is kind of how I look at it. I think it could have went bad really easily, but it paid off in their favor. Speaking of buses, I do want to add in the parade today, because you guys did mention the parade.
Yep.
You
They were
brought up
not
the parade.
They were not short enough to go through the streets, so they hit every fucking wire. You see the players celebrating, bro, like this? All of a sudden, you have the electrical wires just banging them. Like they just didn't choose the route the correct way.
No, OKC's
Like-
just built different.
They just, bro.
Built wrong.
I mean,
Oh my god! Listen, if the video images that I saw of the helicopter view of the crowd, it was not a lot of people. Here's the other thing: is let's go to the drinking aspect of this thing. We got to remember that almost all these dudes are under the age of 25. Some of them have not drank. Some of them don't know how to drink.
That is prime drinking age. Let's not pretend like we
For
were
a
Depends on if you're a
normal-
superstar athlete or
for a
not.
normal college kid.
For
yeah,
you
it
at Drake
is.
University, yes, Isaiah, that is correct.
Dude,
But these
have
guys-
you've seen Brad Marchand's 36 years old, and he has been shit-faced for the past week
Hockey-
since they won the Stanley Cup.
We're comparing
different
apples and
worlds.
oranges there now.
I think what you guys are trying to say, in the nicest way possible, or in the most indirect way possible, is you just think these dudes smoke a shit ton of weed instead of drink.
I mean,
I'm not opposed to it. It's probably
I-
better for their body.
they probably are up that alley. But no, like Chet was wasted. Everybody was like way too far gone, and I think that impacted the parade. Obviously, running into wires going down the parade route kind of dampens the mood a touch. I hope they don't. I hope they're not at like, oh, we're so confident that one, we're going to win this one with the buses, but two, we're not going to go buck wild. Like the city's not going to go crazy because we're just going to be back here next year anyway. Don't get comfortable, OKC. You're not at that level yet.
I do want to see. We can check in next week. I do want to know the parade numbers. I'm not saying that it was bad, but I did see some angles that it looked pretty lit. The city expected 600,000 people, which to put it in perspective, I think Boston was 1 million people in the streets. And
Compare the
when I was-
population of the cities. How many people live in OKC?
but Boston has a bigger outside market than OKC. There's nothing in the middle of Oklahoma, brother.
Yeah, but Boston, Massachusetts probably has a population that quadruples OKC.
I think they're really close, actually. I think Boston might actually have less.
I refuse to believe that.
Boston, technically, the city of Boston has 50,000 less people than the
Yeah.
city of Oklahoma City.
But you got
Now,
people coming in from the
We're-
city.
You're,
got
well,
all
you
that
know,
stuff.
you're just talking about Boston. I mean, you're not talking about any of the surrounding
Yeah.
neighborhoods, which
No, when
total.
you talk about a place like Boston, you're talking Boston Metro.
Yeah. So, but then the Boston Metro is 4.92 million. So
Exactly.
we can do the math on that one.
So I do want to get. I looked before. There's a guy live tweeting the parade and the celebration that works for a network there, and no final numbers have been in or estimates yet, but there's people saying that's the most people they've seen. I think the biggest thing they've seen is 30,000 people, and that's what a park holds that they have there. And this has well surpassed that. So good for the city, good for them. I hope it does turn out a lot better than those first initial photos looked.
I think we all do.
I wish it was in Seattle though, but good for OKC. We need a Supersonics, man. We need Gary Payton to get his number retired.
He had the opportunity. Anything else, guys? NBA Finals. Anybody
I
want
think
to put an early prediction on next year's winner? Put their money where
Too
their
early.
mouth is right now.
Way too early. We got to see what the draft and free agency brings, especially with how chaotic the last 2-3 days have been.
Man, okay. Speaking of chaos, let's go to probably the biggest trade, or domino that fell over the weekend. Kevin Durant is officially a Houston Rocket.
Congratulations, Rob. Congrats to the Suns,
Hell yeah,
baby.
The rainbow technically has been completed by KD once he dons that red jersey, the uniform rainbow. If you weren't aware,
I wasn't.
If we're talking technicalities, some people are kind of upset that the Suns had like a blue jersey and a purple jersey, whatever. But Kevin Durant, newest Houston Rocket, trade was for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, their own Phoenix's own 2025 first round pick, which is at number 10. They got that pick back, along with 5 second-round picks, which, first glance at it, I don't know if they were trying to fool us with the 5 second-round picks, making it seem like they just got a bunch of assets in return for KD. But I feel like this was kind of what the ceiling was in terms of return for Kevin Durant. I felt like he kind of held all the leverage in there. He already made it clear he really only wanted to go to 3 teams, or was willing to potentially sign an extension with 3 teams, which really narrows down the bidding. But before I toss it over to Rob to get his opinions, I just want to see how much I can rile him up. So if we take it a step back, Phoenix essentially traded Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, 4 first-round picks for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, 2025 first-round pick, in 5 seconds. If you were to ask me, that's a fleecing. A competent GM does not make that move. But I will hold the rest of my thoughts and hand it over.
Wow, going at the GM.
I will hand it over to our resident Suns beat reporter, Big Rob.
Am I in video? I'm frozen on my screen.
No, you're good.
For me, I think you hit it with the. I mean, I'll hit on the last part. But I think starting from the top, I think as far as the ceiling, there were some rumors going around about the Cavs, about the Heat being involved. But as far as, what you're going to get for a 36, 37-year-old KD, I think this was the best. I mean, if you're a Suns fan and you're not happy with what you were able to get back for Kevin Durant, you're fooling yourself. Now, as far as Jalen Green, former second-round overall pick, didn't really see him in college. He played in the G League, obviously. Came in the league averaging 20 points a game. I think he's a dog. Dylan Brooks plays defense, and then we get our number 10 overall pick back, plus 5 second-round picks. Best case scenario for the Suns. And the Houston, I think it makes sense on their end, too. They kind of had a lot of guys there, and they kind of had to choose. And they chose, and they get Kevin Durant for the next year or 2 or however long he plays. So, I mean, will it work out in their favor? I'm not quite sure. But as far as having 20, looking back, obviously it didn't pan out in our favor. I mean, I think we got a new owner at that time, and we were chasing that, getting back to the NBA Finals that we were already at. Minnesota will get there one day. And then we were there. And I think with
really unnecessary.
with the new owner, I think he got kind of cocky. He went out, he got Durant, he got Beal, and now it's kind of biting him in the ass, man. I think it truly did. So now it's kind of time to reset and see where they want to go going forward. But getting that number 10 overall pick back, I think that's crucial in the grand scheme of things.
Okay. Can you fucking explain to me how Houston doesn't have to give up Reed Shepard, Cam Whitmore, Segun, or Eason to make this trade happen?
Because
Like,
we have the
I feel
number
like
2 overall pick,
I
and we got a first round pick out of it.
I feel like you'd rather push for one of those guys over probably Dylan Brooks.
I think Dylan Brooks was a throw in. I don't think there was a lot of thought in there besides the lack of defense that the Suns played last year. Which that's what he brings. He's going to give you 10 points a game and play defense is what Dylan's going to do. I don't think you would have got them to throw in Sengun or any of those other role players. I think it was a decision from the Houston of we got this many guys. We got to figure out who we want to go forward with. And Jalen Green was not that guy for them, which looking at his stats and looking at how he's developed, I don't think a team would be mad about taking on Jalen Green.
I think there's plenty of teams that would be mad about taking on Jalen Green with the way that
Taking
he
on
played
a
in
guy
that
that's
NBA.
averaging 20 points per game in his third
Did
year
you
in the
see how he
NBA.
played in the playoffs? That's why Houston was completely okay with shipping him over anybody else.
He's a young NBA player. Have you seen how Anthony Edwards plays in the playoffs? It's a similar concept. He's an NBA player.
No,
He's young. He's getting experience.
No. Jalen Green absolutely disappeared for every single game except one in their playoff series against the Warriors.
Is that like his first playoff series he's ever played in?
Doesn't fucking matter. Disappeared.
That does matter.
When he was what? He finished as the second leading scorer on that team. He outside of game 2, his high was 12 points. 8 points, 12 points, 11 points, 8 points, 9 points, 7 points, and he shot like shit in all of those.
So one series makes or breaks a guy for you?
Definitely.
A young NBA player that did not play in college? You got to let that man develop, brother.
I mean, with where Houston is right now.
If you were a GM and you were that cutthroat, bro, that's fucking crazy.
No, but if you're looking at Houston's window right now, it makes complete sense. They have
a humongous window.
Dude, they are ready. The window, NBA championship windows are so much smaller now with the second apron that you can't be handing out multiple max deals or close to max deals and be able to have enough depth to compete for an NBA championship. They already had Van Vliet on a $45+ million per year. They just signed Sengun and Green to extensions for $30+ million. Jabari Smith Jr. is up for an extension next year. Like, you got to be very intentional with how you're building a team right now. And for what Jalen Green's new contract was going to pay, it was paying him for more than what he is worth right now.
I think it's tough, man. I'm not out on a player after 22, 23 years old. I mean, that's the age most of these kids come to the league. I'm not out on him.
I'm not saying I'm out on him. I'm just saying for where Houston is right now, it makes sense that he would be the guy that they would remove.
I agree. I think it was a decision they made that was a guy they moved off on being a number 2 overall pick. I think it made sense, but I think it made sense from the Suns' angle. Now their backcourt is one of the top 2 or top 3 scoring backcourt in the league, adding Jalen Green. So it's it's a win.
You want to talk about Phoenix's backcourt now, considering their top 5 players all play the same position? Top 5 paid players, I should say, all play the same position.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see some more trades. I do think that we'll see I think we're going to see a lot of crazy stuff happen in the NBA. But as of right now, if I had to predict the starting 5, I think Book takes the 1. I think he's done it before. I think he brings the ball down the court. That's what Book does. I think Jalen Green at the 2. I think Bradley Beal at the 3 if he doesn't get moved. Obviously, this is barring any move. And I think, obviously, Grayson Allen rotates in and out of there. You need his three-point shooting and his defense. And then I think what's probably going to happen, which I'm not huge on Dylan Brooks, but I could see Dylan Brooks playing the 4. Because I think he is a guy, I guess, similar to a Draymond Green type that can kind of guard the bigger positions. And then I think Nick Richards plays the 5. I think that's what we're seeing. That is a high-scoring top. If those top three guys play their potential, that's a very high-scoring backcourt.
Also, a team that doesn't play much defense.
Correct. That's why you drafted Ryan Dunn, baby.
All right, let me give you my take on this trade. I was confused on Houston's end because I agree with Rob that I think the window is bigger for Houston right now. It felt like they were developing and leading towards something. They feel like they were KD away, obviously. Moving Brooks was to clear the cap space to be able to pay KD, and then the Jalen Green was what made it sweet. And getting your 10 overall back. There are reports, Rob, and I'm sure you've seen this. Phoenix is allegedly considering moving Jalen Green. Have you seen that?
I've seen it. I think I also saw Centel tweet it too. So until I see something, I wouldn't be surprised because I do think they're probably trying to move Beal as well. But I don't know what I haven't seen anything from an NBA guy like Shams or somebody talk about it. But I wouldn't be surprised if they would be either shopping it for picks, which we'll get into the draft in a little bit. But I think we're going to see a lot of shakeup in this draft that we haven't seen in a few years.
So I'm going to tell you this right now. If you guys trade Jalen Green, you take an L in this trade. Unless you're getting multiple first-rounders back, but that's not going to happen. So if you guys trade Jalen Green, go ahead and hold an L on this trade, unfortunately. Because I think Jalen Green and a Book backcourt could be special. Especially if they trade Jalen and you look at, like I say, I brought up the bigger picture of what you traded for KD versus what you traded KD for. If Jalen Green isn't in there, that's a monumental L. Monumental L. So I don't think Phoenix should do anything with Jalen other than put trust in him and let him go out there and play. And let Book make him better, because that'll happen.
Rob, you know what the Suns really need at this point? They need,
Please tell him.
Solid, wing players, 3-and-D dudes, I don't know, Mikal Bridges or Cam Johnson, I feel like would be perfect fits for that team next to Devin Booker. I just don't know if they have the ability to go out and get players like that.
Like a Ryan
Bridges.
Dunn.
God, you were hung up on a guy who gives a fuck about.
Okay.
Also, your center. I've said this to you offline. I'm going to continue to tell you until the draft tomorrow. If you need offense, you're going to go with one player. I'm going to tell you. If you go defense, you're going to go with another one. Okay. You need to draft a center at 10, and if Malawach or Queen are there, take one of them. Take one of them immediately.
Neither of them are going to be there, so you don't even have to talk about hypotheticals.
Okay, I don't know what. Literally, the entire podcast is hypotheticals. Literally.
But I feel like our hypotheticals are usually better, higher confidence interval when we're saying them. That's just not happening. Both of those guys are going to be gone by 7 or 8.
I mean, I think they're those type of players, but I think Queen could be there. And Rob can't stand Derek Queen. I don't understand it. We'll talk about that in the draft. Yep. You said, why would I draft a guy on potential? That's literally all the NBA draft is anymore. Is on potential.
Aren't in a spot to draft off potential is what I said. I never said
they're for sure in a spot to draft off potential.
Are we? Is this just a 30-minute bash that I just got to sit here in a fucking defense or what?
Are we not? We've let you make your points, and I told you this was coming, so you can suck it up. Okay, if you guys don't go center,
the Suns are going to be dog shit, right?
I don't
You're
think
a
they're gonna be.
Timberwolves
I don't
fan.
think they're gonna be dog shit.
You are
Dude,
a
in the
Timberwolves fan.
in the Western Conference next season, the Phoenix Suns are going to be dog shit.
You are a
Don't quote us.
Timberwolves fan.
Yeah, the Timberwolves that made the Western Conference.
You are
Finals
throwing
the last
rocks
2
at a
years.
glass house right now with a glass house, brother.
The team that has made the Western Conference Finals the last 2 years.
Is that what you hang banners for?
Ask a Suns fan. I don't know. We're hanging banners for the same.
Have
things,
you made a
then,
finals? We made the finals
right? To what? Lose 4-1 to the fucking Bucks.
to the Giannis.
Con-
Yeah, Giannis was a dog.
Congrats.
You'll
I
get
would
there
be-
one day.
I'd be so proud. Like
You drafted.
you're hanging your head on losing a fucking NBA champion or NBA Finals. Nice.
I just it's
that,
like
that is a
Bears
loser
fan.
mentality right there.
You're talking shit to a team that's done better than you, arguably for the last 30 years. That's like a Bears fan talking shit to a Packers fan. It makes no sense.
I can talk shit to whoever I want.
Oh,
All right, we'll have something to back it up.
Doesn't have to be
Alright.
founded
Jesus.
on anything.
all right. Goodness. Draft a fucking center, Rob. Make a call to the GM and
want
draft
one,
a
baby.
goddamn. Well, then you guys are gonna get absolutely torched, and Jokic is gonna fucking drop 70 on your head.
No, if they get lucky, Ace Bailey will just drop to 10. They'll be set up on that potential pick.
I want a dude out of France. I forget what his name was. I'll have it ready by the draft. By the time we talk about the draft, though.
All right, let's keep moving with these bombshell trades. Are flying all over the place.
Okay, Herb, you want to hit on the next one?
A little Boston and Portland conversation that happened.
I think that's a good place to start.
All right. So, for those of you who are not paying attention to NBA offseason, yesterday, Drew Holiday from the Boston Celtics was sent to the Portland Trailblazers. And the Trailblazers sent back Anthony Simmons and 2 second-round picks. I would love to hear your guys' opinion on this one because I think, and I'm just going to give you who I think won. I think Boston won this one by a long shot.
Rob, you want to hit it first?
Yeah, I can hit it. I think I agree with you. I think we chatted a little bit. I mean, when I look at that trade, I mean, the theme of this week, which we'll get into in other trades, but the theme of this week is trading mid 30-year-old players for potential. I think Drew Holiday, obviously we've talked about the apron and things like that and getting under that, which makes sense on Boston's side. But bringing in Anthony is it Simmons or Simons? Simons. I think getting him and 2 second-round picks, which obviously we know how the draft is, and sometimes it's whatever. But for an aging Drew Holiday, I think the Celtics know they're not going to have Tatum going into next season for however long that is. It might be all season, it might be playoffs, whatever that is. I think Anthony's going to bring in a little bit of offense that Drew didn't provide for you. I think Drew averaged 10 points a game, and Simons is almost at 20. It makes sense. I think Boston won that trade by $1 million. I don't know what Portland's been thinking ever since the Damian Lillard and LaMarcus Aldridge days. I don't know what Portland's been doing as a franchise, to be honest with you.
Okay. So, yes, in agreement with both of you guys. Boston won this trade by a fucking mile. Really, they're making this trade to, and we'll continue this with the Porzingis trade here in a second, but they knew that they had to make moves to get under the second apron with the impacts that hard straps any franchise. Like before these trades, they were looking at a tax bill next year or a payroll bill next year. I think that was greater than $500 million, which is absurd.
Yes.
For any owner out there, that is an absurd amount of money to pay. So by making this trade, specifically, Boston saves $40 million in luxury tax payments next season. Again, for like Rob said, for a player that averaged 11 points, 35 years old, he's getting
Plays
paid.
defense.
He does play good defense, but he's getting paid like a star still. I think his contract runs for another year or two, and then he has a player option, all for $35+ million a year. which is just negative value at that point. So it makes sense from a Boston perspective. The fact that they were able to turn him into Anthony Simons is wild to me because he fits perfectly into the type of offense that Missoula loves to run in Boston, and it's just hoisting up a ton of 3-point shots. The question just comes down to whether or not he can play good enough defense to get enough minutes. But with the Tatum injury and the other roster moves that they're making, he's still going to get plenty of run. He's playing 25, 30 minutes a game regardless. And this is the last year of his deal. But if he shows out, potentially he fits a lot better in that window, Boston's championship window with Tatum and Brown if they keep him, than Drew Holiday did. So I get it from Boston's perspective, without a doubt. From Portland's perspective, the way I am coming to understand this trade is Portland just is very naive as to where they currently are. They played really well after the NBA All-Star break. I think they went about 500 after the break. And they had like the 4th rated defense or something during that span. So they think they need to bring in a wily veteran, to help them take that next step. I guess is the terminology going around right now. But I don't even think Drew starts the season in Portland. I'm sure he probably gets rerouted somewhere else before the season, just like he previously was when he was a part of the Lillard trade. But I think we've said it plenty of times on this podcast. Dumbass teams are going to continue to make dumbass moves, and I feel like that's what this is.
I'm copywriting that, by the way.
I don't know.
That should be the first piece of merch that we make.
Bad teams make bad moves.
Yeah, something like that.
I do want to add before we move on, and obviously Boston's next, but something to keep in mind when you're seeing Boston make these moves, which I think Isaiah touched on it with the apron, and I read the penalties that you can get from that, and that shit's kind of crazy. So it is going to restrict a lot of teams. It's basically going to cut into that salary cap. But also something to keep in mind with Boston is they have a new ownership, and with new owners, they can see that. I saw some articles saying they saw that, that tax bill coming and things like that. So I'm not saying that I think Boston culture is always going to be Boston culture. But I wouldn't be surprised if Boston makes some moves at some point that would trying to surprise us.
You think they're moving up in the draft?
I don't know, bro. The draft is so crazy. I don't know because we've talked about Boston. Obviously, these teams are going to be without their star up until probably at least the playoffs next year. And with the East being so non-competitive, you can make the playoffs. I don't know if Boston says, "Hey, you know what? With Jaylen Brown, with these guys, we can still make a run at it. If we go get this guy or go get this pick, I don't know, but I do think they can at least make the playoffs. I think that's not too high of a ceiling for Boston.
I think that's a foregone conclusion still, even with these moves. East is so bad.
It's been that way for a minute. It's been that way for a long time.
But it's going to be noticeably worse next season, I feel like.
I think LeBron and everything. I think LeBron and others being in the East, and Giannis has kind of propped it up the last few years, but the East has been bad for a minute. It's always been the West is just dominantly better, top to bottom.
Okay. Next.
Don't shake your head. Don't shake. Don't tilt your head.
I'm not disputing that this year, but you sitting here saying that the West has been that dominant over the East for that long is just.
They have.
But they have, bro. I think you'd be surprised, to be honest. But yeah.
But they definitely.
I think you guys are blowing it up a little bit more than it is.
Do we want to go back and look at the last 20 NBA champions and see what conference they played in?
So I wasn't even thinking of it from that. I'm thinking of it from the people that made the draft. If you just look, or the people that made the playoffs, if you just look at their record versus the West's record, I think that the East is predominantly worse than the West year after year. And I think you can sneak into the playoffs in the East with a above average record. I think. I mean, that can change
No,
obviously.
you can
depending on what
sneak
moves.
in with a below average record. Just ask the Chicago Bulls fan. I'm
We're,
pretty
yeah,
sure.
correct. We're talking about right now. And Rob, you said it's been for a long time. It hadn't been for a long time. As of recent, yes. I'll give it to you. As of recent, yes, absolutely. So, but this year, East is bad. There's no doubt about that.
Okay, or hit him with the next trade. I'm looking up how much the Western Conference has looked up or has been up on the Eastern Conference the last 20 years.
Okay,
Just
cool.
look at the overall record. Go over the next trader. Let's get this going.
All right, Boston making more moves, trying to get under that apron again, and I think this was a move that I expected to happen more so than the Drew Holiday. But Boston is shipping Kristaps Porzingis in a second rounder to Atlanta. Atlanta is sending. Is it George Niang? Yep, George Niang in a second rounder to Boston, and Brooklyn is getting Terrence Mann and the number 22 overall pick.
Okay, pause. I found my stats. We're back to this. Western Conference is
This is
10
great.
times better.
This is great podcasting.
It is. We could do verbal means. That would be way worse. Okay, so going back to the 2000-2001 season, if you go by win percentage, somebody quote me. You can quote me on this one. It's 25 seasons. Or guess how many times, many years.
Just tell me, you smart ass.
Tell
ahead.
me how many seasons. Tell
No,
me
go
how many
ahead.
seasons Eastern Conference had a
No,
better
go
win
ahead.
percentage.
This is your stick. Just go ahead and say it.
Three out of 25 years. And the highest, they had a win percentage of 49.1%, 49.5%, and 49.9%. So barely, it would be opposite. It would be 50.1, 50.5, 50.9. So barely better in those 3 years. So, case in point, book closed. Western Conference has owned the Eastern Conference for a very, 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 very long time.
What do we think of this trade, boys?
But back to the trade.
Go ahead.
Rob, hit him with the trade.
He already went over the trade. I think that obviously, I think of this trade. I think if I look at these three teams, we've talked about Boston. They're just making moves. I think Porzingis was the easiest move. When they needed him the most, he wasn't there. A lot of injury trouble since he's been in Boston. You know, when he's there, great. But obviously, if you can get off of him, I think now is a good time. Brooklyn, I mean, they're just stacking up first-round picks right now. So they got Terrence Mann, which is fine. But to get another, I think they have 5 first-round picks in this year's draft. Shout out to them. As far as Niang goes, going to Boston, I think if he does see the floor, it won't be any different than any other team he's been on. Comes on, gets some filler minutes, might hit you a 3, might potentially play defense, but it's going to be nothing life-changing. To me, this was, in fact, a salary cap or apron move for Boston. As far as Atlanta, I think Porzingis moves into the starting lineup down there with obviously Trae Young and those guys. But I don't think it, flips that roster upside down or makes them a championship caliber. I don't think any one of these teams are going to be life-changing from this trade.
No, I feel like the Porzingis moving to Atlanta is very similar to when he moved to Washington. He's just kind of like, okay, he's there now, But I had mentioned that when Holiday was traded to Portland, they saved $40 million. I read somewhere with Porzingis being moved, they save almost $200 million in luxury tax payments over the course of that contract. So they are with that trade. They're officially under the second apron. I don't know how close they are to the first apron, and I don't know if they have intentions on getting under the first apron. But they are definitely. They have a lot more flexibility now than they did 24 hours ago. That's for sure. But Rob, I wanted to point out your stat about the Nets having 5 first-round picks. I saw somewhere that of the 30 first-round picks tomorrow night, they're owned by 12 teams, or something crazy like that.
I mean, that makes sense. I think there's a lot of teams that don't have a first round. Are we right on that? And then there's a couple teams that have one or two, and then obviously Brooklyn taking up 5 by themselves.
Yeah, so less than
I
half
think
the
we're going to
league is
see.
making a pick tomorrow. My question I wanted to pose to you, with Brooklyn having 5 picks, and I think 4 of those are between 8 and 29 or something like that, I think. 28. If they called offering 2 of those middle picks, like let's say in the teens, for Phoenix's 10, are you taking that?
Probably.
Yeah.
I think from a depth perspective, I think we will see moves like that. Maybe not out of the Suns, maybe so. I think we're going to see some moves like that. I think you're right on par with if you're looking for a team that's not trying to necessarily rebuilding, but trying to revamp, I guess is what you can call it. I think that's a move a lot of these teams make. I mean, especially for a Brooklyn side of things, if you have 5 first round picks, if you hit on 2 of those guys, I mean, you're winning. So if you can get something out of 1, 2 of those picks, I wouldn't be mad about it.
Yeah, and just think, like, what does OKC do? They have 2 first round picks after just winning the championship Sunday night, and I'm pretty sure that they already have 15 dudes under contract for next season. So they don't even have space for these first round picks. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do. Like, they could probably find a team, trade them their 2 first round picks this year for a first round pick in 2035 or some shit.
I think we will see. OKC is interesting, right? Because they also have that guy they drafted last year that hasn't played all year. I don't remember his name, but they're super high
Topic.
on him. Super high on him. He has a ring, didn't play a single NBA minute. They have that guy that's just sitting there that supposedly has super high potential. And then they have all these picks. And it's like they're just in a plethora right now. I mean, it's interesting what OKC does in the next year or two as far as having all those guys. Because, I mean, for instance, they found Lou Dort undrafted. He did
They
not get
found,
drafted.
wait, what was it? Wiggins. How many
Caruso
of
was
these dudes?
undrafted for them as well.
Well, oh yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
you're right. But I'm thinking just dudes that were drafted in the second round by them. They had Aaron Wiggins. They had the other Jalen Williams. Um, Dort that was undrafted. Cason Wallace was a second round pick. Like, they have hit on so many picks in the last half a decade. It is crazy. Like, Sam Presti, when he dies, his brain needs to be studied. That dude
Jesus.
just sees things in a completely different way than anybody else.
He's always the GM of the year.
I think so. I think I see the other side of it too, where we have talked for the last year, 2 years that I mean the moves that he was making. You just saw something like this coming. I mean, he's taken Paul George, he's getting this in return. He's taken Carmelo Anthony, he's getting this in return. It's like he was doing it just so like so quickly and like just building that team. But I will say, as far as I do think he's the GM of the NBA, I think a lot of teams are going to take what he does and use it. Not to say to the full capacity, but I could see that, buying a player low, letting him have a good year or two, and then selling him high. Because I think they had Paul George after his injury, right?
Yeah.
From Indiana, let him have a good year or two or whatever it was, and they sold him high. And
They more so can thank Kawhi Leonard for that one.
yeah, and it's Sam Presti's a dog. But I do want to point out I don't know what OKC is going to do when it's time to play all these dudes though.
I mean, they did it last year. They had how many dudes averaging at least like 15 minutes per game on their roster
But
last year?
when these dudes are starting to hit the contract time frame, it's going to get a little weird. If the NBA does keep restricting the salary and the apron and all that kind of good stuff. But
And that
some of those players might take a pay cut just to keep the team together. I don't know how that'll work, but it'll be interesting to see.
I think that's something we're going to start seeing in this next year or two. Like, I think Trae Young is up for an extension here shortly. Um, and in previous years, it would have been a foregone conclusion. Sign him to the max. He signs it, stays in Atlanta. blah blah blah. Now with the apron and everything, I think there's going to be a lot of dudes out there that formerly would have gotten a max contract without a second thought that will need to take less money. Like the max contracts will be saved for those all NBA players, those top 10, 15 players in the league. And then everybody else has to figure out where their value is now beyond that.
I do. I and Irby, obviously, you haven't chimed in a minute, but I do want to add in. I think it's a good spot for it. I just think the NBA is in such a weird spot. It's a good and bad. I just think the NBA. I think since Adam Silver took over, it is for 12 years he's had 9 different champions, and we've seen that the last few years, obviously. And previously, when David Stern was the commissioner, for 30 years there was 8 different teams as champions, which is kind of crazy if you think about it from that perspective. A lot more dynasty oriented 80s, 90s, into the 2000s. And now it's like whatever team's like running at the right time is the team that wins it. It seems like that's kind of what whoever's healthy and whoever's kind of, hot at that time is who's taking home the finals the last few years, it seems like.
That's a crazy fucking stat line, to be honest. I hadn't heard that yet. That's pretty cool as like a modern NBA fan, because small market teams like OKC, all of a sudden you have a championship. Milwaukee, you have a championship. That hadn't been the case previously. So that's pretty fucking cool to hear.
Parity, man. It's back in the NBA, full force.
I guess.
Okay, last trade to touch on, which we don't have to say more than what the trade was, to be honest. The Washington Wizards and Pelicans made a trade this evening. Washington will be receiving CJ McCollum, Kelly Olynyk, and a second-round pick. New Orleans Pelicans will receive the one and only Jordan Poole, Sadiq Bey, and the number 40 overall pick. Herb, let's get your 2 cents. Represent.
Oh, yeah.
Jordan Poole now on his third team.
Ann Arbor legend, baby.
Third team in, 4 or 5 years? Any thoughts on this trade?
Yeah, I mean, New Orleans clearly won this thing. They got off big contracts and they got younger. I think Sadiq Bey has some potential there. You get a pick back this year. And Jordan Poole, I tell you what, if Jordan Poole can find somewhat of a groove in this thing and Zion can actually stay healthy, that could be a fun duo to watch. I'm not saying they're going to go out there and win a lot of games, but they could be just a lot of fun to watch. I think we're going to find a lot of those lob passes to Zion coming from Jordan in that SportsCenter top 10. But that's about the extent of success out of that.
Are those lobs going to be intentional, or are those going to be Jordan Poole attempting a shot that's just really bad?
Doesn't matter as long as it goes in, baby. It doesn't fucking matter.
I think for me this trade doesn't do anything either side. I think the Pelicans are lost. I think they got rid of Brandon Ingram. They went and dropped McCollum. Now they're getting rid of him. You could say it's due to obviously getting younger and getting off some contracts. Sure, I don't have as much faith in Jordan Poole. I think the Wizards reached super heavily when they went and got him and gave him the deal they gave him to come to the Wizards. And obviously his years with the Wizards have not been great. Sadiq Bey potential, but again, I think this is just kind of a back office move. I don't think it makes either team any better, to be honest.
At least it freed up New Orleans, so like now they can finally pick a direction. You know what I mean? I know Zion's still kind of an anchor holding them down, but like you're paying McCollum and Olynyk quite a bit of money. So at least now they have some freedom to say, okay, if we want to restart after this year, we can. It's easier to do. And if they decide that Zion's the future, with good luck, God bless on that one. But yeah, I think it just gives them options to figure out what they want to be.
Cool. I have nothing to add to this trade. I could give 2 shits.
And it did just happen, 2 hours ago? hour and a half ago.
I think I was eating dinner when it happened.
Yeah. So it doesn't do much.
Okay, let's move into NBA draft talk then. Herb, I know you are quite excited about this topic, so I'm gonna hand the reins over to you. I don't know where you want to start exactly, but let's see
Um,
where.
I'm gonna start with this, and we talked about it way back, like maybe even the even before we started recording episodes. I think this draft is going to help the NBA, as I believe, in reinvigorating the passion behind the NBA big man. Now it's a different big man. It's not Shaq. It's not Vlade Divac. It's not those guys. It's not Yao, right? It's not even Dwight. It's a different. But I think the NBA has been trying to get back to it, and I think this draft with the center talent between Malawach, between Derek Queen, between Danny Wolf, Vlad Golden, and then a bunch of these international dudes. And a shout out to Ryan Kalkbrenner. I don't love giving credit to a Creighton kid, but I'll give him his flowers. I'm excited to watch these centers, man. I think there's a couple of NBA starting centers in this draft. I'm sure Robert doesn't feel that way at all. Too much potential around these guys. But I think this draft, I think we're going to see a lot of centers who are going to do well in the NBA. I don't know if any of them are superstars yet, but yeah, that's what I think about the 25 NBA draft.
I think the draft will be interesting. I think we mentioned it. We sprinkled some things from. I think we're going to see some weird trades, some weird things. But as far as the talent in the draft, I think it's the same we've seen in other years. As far as obviously, I do think there is a big man kind of thing this year. When you're looking at mock drafts, I do think that forwards and centers are kind of shining a little bit. But I do feel that when it comes to the NBA draft, it's not like any other draft where if you draft a player top 10, like in the NFL, they typically work out or whatever. The NBA, it's very hard to miss and it's very easy to hit, if that makes sense. Sometimes you get an undrafted player and he works out and he's great for you. And sometimes you draft a guy, top 5, top 10, and he just doesn't pan out. I'm hoping we see some fun on draft night. As far as some teams, maybe some superstars being traded, whatever the case may be. I just want it to be an entertaining draft night. I'm sure the presentation will be dog shit, as it always is. And I'm sure probably ESPN has it if I had to guess. But I just hope it's a good draft. I hope we see some things that are fun, and I hope it's good. I mean, I obviously am pulling for the Suns and who they're going to draft. But I just want to see a good, fun draft all together, I feel like.
Hey, shout out Cooper Flag because this is the first, no, not the first time in a long time, but the last couple drafts, probably since Zion, we had no idea, right? Like there were 3 or 4 guys that could go number 1. Sorry, Wemby. I'm going to retract that. Wemby was number 1, but good for Cooper Flag because this kid I think is going to be electric. He's
the
falling
comments
into.
Would have roasted him.
Yeah, no, that's my bad. That's I don't know how I could forget Wemby. But Cooper Flag, good for you, dude. You're falling into a pretty solid situation for your long-term success. And hey, when you become a household name and everybody loves you and 90% of the merch sold has your face or name on it, they'll trade you. So enjoy your time in Dallas.
I did. Speaking of Cooper, before you give your thoughts, Isaiah, on the draft, I saw this thing today that said his ceiling is Kawhi Leonard or Anthony Davis, and his floor is Karolinko, AK-47.
Hey, honestly, that's not a terrible floor, bro. That's not a bad floor at all, dude. That dude was lethal, and everybody knew him. That's not a bad floor whatsoever.
Arguably one of the best nicknames in NBA history. It's top 10 at least.
Way up there.
I don't have much to add in terms of the actual draft itself, outside of the top 10 or so picks. I don't really know a ton of the players all that well. I will say I do want to make a point of mentioning the one thing that just grinds my gears to no end. The fact that in the NBA, you'll have dudes that are traded in the middle of the draft.
Yep.
So you'll have a kid walk up there and put a Minnesota Timberwolves hat on, and he already knows that his rights have been traded to a different team, and he still has to put on the Timberwolves hat. Like, just give the kid the New York Knicks hat or whoever he got traded to. Like, what is the point of making them go up there and do this facade?
Hey, was that Bub Carrington for you guys? Didn't you guys do that last year or the year before? The T-Wolves?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
It also reads
I
weird
feel
on
like
the draft ticker as well because it'll say the name, then the team that drafted, and he's on a different team. It makes it super weird. I agree with Isaiah. I think it's dumb how they do it.
Like, you are having to perform goddamn brain surgery when watching the draft, when you're watching the ticker on the bottom of, like, who the picks were, to figure out what team actually has that player. Because it'll be like, Memphis Grizzlies have Conca Nipple, but really, his rights have already been traded 18 times, and now he's playing for the Orlando Magic.
I do want to. Don't be surprised from a fan perspective if we do see, because it sounds like there's been a lot of teams this week that have been jumpy, trying to jump. Whether it's the Cavs, I think your Timberwolves have been involved in some discussions. Supposedly the Bucks have been involved, but Giannis is not going anywhere. Supposedly, but there are some teams looking to jump a little bit. So don't be surprised if you see that either pre-draft or during the draft, whether it's getting off of talent, getting younger, or adding that last piece. I wouldn't be surprised. But I do want to, before we move on from draft, I don't know, Herb, if you want to give your prediction, but I do want to, we can call out who we think our team's going to draft.
Yeah, I do want to make one quick thing, and this is for the record, so that either one day I'm an absolute fucking genius or Bozo the goddamn clown. Okay? I might be the only one feeling this way, but there's something about Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey that make me think they are both going to flop in the NBA. And that might be a real hot take. But there's just something about both of them, and maybe it's the fact that they played at Rutgers, and maybe that's some sort of bias in the back of my brain, but just something tells me that Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey are not going to work out in the NBA.
I'm not sure. When I did, I mean, I don't have a take on that, but I do have a take on when I looked at these players. There's a lot of top 20 prospects when you look at this year's stats, whether it was overseas or in college. You're banking on, but like there's some players in there that average 6 points a game, and they're supposed to go top 15 in the draft. And I do think
Carter Bryant's the best example of that one.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just so diluted now or what the case is, but you don't see these monsters coming in, the crazy drafts we used to see where these dudes were just coming in and the top 10 picks were just kind of stars, but it's interesting.
Yeah. Do you guys have your sleeper picks at all? Does anybody have sleeper picks? Because I got
wait.
You got something else. I apologize.
Yeah, sorry. Before that, because we've been talking a lot about just the trade environment that we are currently in, and I think we're all kind of expecting fireworks of some extent tomorrow night. I just wanted to pose the question to you guys: if there is a name that you think could be traded tonight, similar to like that Jimmy Butler draft night trade from a couple seasons ago, that kind of shocked the world a little bit. Is there a big name out there you think that could be moved tomorrow night, or do you think that will be in the coming weeks before next season?
Can I give you my hope?
Let's hear it.
I hope the Bulls get involved in some capacity, whether it's Vooch, which I would prefer that to be traded before tomorrow night. I just don't know what we would realistically get for him. But and this isn't hopeful, but this has been swirling. I'll feel a little upset about it if we do it. But Kobe White for the Bulls, he's been a name floated around. The Bulls have a tendency to break my heart, so Kobe White could be on the move tomorrow very easily. He could be on the move tonight for all we know.
I don't have my sleeper. I guess it's not so sleeper. I wouldn't be surprised if the Grizzlies make some moves. I think they need some direction down there. I'm not saying Ja Morant, but I'm saying some moves down there. Also, I think this is the year that these teams are getting rid of either getting younger and realizes what OKC is doing and some of these teams are doing, so they're moving off some players that are in the 30s. And also, I think I don't know what they would do, but for something that tells me that the Clippers want to make a move of some kind. I don't know if it's moving off Kawhi. I don't know what it is until I don't know if they go get a superstar of some capacity, but something tells me that owner with that new arena, wants to make a little splash. Um, and they haven't had one in a minute, so I could see something like that. But those are my two kind of behind the scenes sleepers that I could see going on.
Yeah, the names that I am seeing being tossed around there. Obviously, you have Giannis, which if he's going to get traded, I don't think it's going to be tomorrow night. Um, you got Laurie Markkinen from Utah. You got both Ja and JJJ from Memphis. Zion, Trey Young, Jalen Brown. More are the names, potential names that could be available.
The Jalen Brown, I don't think after the last two trades that have happened, I don't foresee that happening. But I mean, if you want to, I mean, I'm not super high on Jalen Brown as is. So if they moved off of him, it wouldn't make me feel any some type of way.
I'll tell you what, if the Spurs want Giannis, talking about the timeline, if the Spurs want Giannis, that move has to be done before tomorrow night, because I don't see a world where that second overall pick isn't included to Milwaukee. Like, you're sitting on 2. That's one of the big pulls of that trade. And you didn't go get KD. Houston probably didn't want to give up as much for Giannis. So if Giannis is going to end up in San Antonio, now is the time to make the move, not after the draft, in my opinion.
Yeah, all reports coming out of Milwaukee, though, is they are going to try once again to load up the roster around him rather than cut the cord on that relationship.
I think that's the right move.
So we'll see. But we can finally move into some of our NBA draft sleepers. Or, Rob, do you want to start with who we think each of our teams are going to select first?
Yeah, if you don't have one, that's fine. Just name something. I'll kind of give him more serious and somebody I like. Maybe doesn't even fit the team. I just like him as a player. But I did do some research today. I was just trying to. I mean, I'm not the most like you, Isaiah. I'm not the most informed. I mean, some of these players we've never even seen play before. But there's this cat out of France, forward, 6'10", 200 pounds. His name's Noah Asingay. He's the second youngest player in the draft behind Flag. I think he doesn't turn 19 until the middle of next season. So super young, some potential there. Other than that, my favorite player I enjoy watching the draft, which wouldn't make sense for the Suns because we already talked about their guard capabilities. But the other one was Knuppel out of Duke. I think that guy, I like the way he plays. So I look forward to whatever team drafts him. I look forward to seeing him develop in the NBA.
Yeah, until it's with Charlotte at number 4, and then get to rot in hell.
VJ Edcomb's going to be stuck down there, bro. Fuck. Chicago Bulls. God, who do I want? I want one of these centers to fall. I want Derek Queen to fall, if we're being 100% honest. Boy, do I want him for us. That's probably not going to happen. So it's probably going to be Igor Denham out of BYU. Kid was pretty electric going into March. 6'9", young kid. He's already played pro ball in Spain. So, we just keep loading up on what feel like just copies of the same dudes.
Yeah, it's essentially Josh Giddey 2.0, isn't it? A big guard that can't shoot that well.
I mean, Josh Giddey, Kevin Huerter, even Kobe White, who's 6'5", has developed a shot but did not come into the league shooting lights out. Like, that's just our MO. I don't know what kind of team we're building. It's just, but it's probably going to be Igor. I'm not going to be upset about it. Kid can play. It's just a makeup of our team. But baby, give me Derek Queen. Give me Derek Queen, please.
Timberwolves. We actually have a first round pick this year. Pretty
Hey.
cool. Pretty cool. So we have 17. I think we'll most likely draft a center, probably
I
a
would
defensive,
fucking hope so.
a defensive-minded center, knowing that Rudy's getting up there in age.
You can't touch the ball.
Hey, let's not start on that.
You guys are so annoying. Like
He's so bad. It's
talk
gone.
talk
The
to
game has
talk to
escaped
his
him.
trophy case and tell me how bad he is.
The game has escaped him. It just is what it
In
is.
fairness, I don't know if he ever really had the game, but he plays really good defense. So hop off his jock
just
a little
big.
bit.
Played really good defense.
He literally won Defensive Player of the Year a year ago. You make it seem like this dude has been some scrub for the last 5 years.
Nope, never said that. But the
You make
game
it
has.
seem like it. You make it seem like it.
Listen, however you're reading that speaks to your insecurities as a
It
T-Wolves
does.
fan.
That is true.
Don't project that onto me. Okay.
I just think
Back to
when you have
what
a
I
one,
was saying, the Wolves will draft some center that plays defense. You guys fill in the
Absolutely.
blank of
Love
whoever
it.
the fuck that is. I have
Love
no
it.
idea.
What a pick it'll be, baby. I don't even care who it
Yeah.
is.
Boom. Bada bing, bada boom. God, if I have to talk about Rudy Gobert one more fucking time, the next 3 months, I'm gonna fucking freak.
To be fair, you said his name, not us.
yeah, we didn't even
You
bring it
started
up.
this.
We didn't say Rudy.
You didn't
You
say
did.
it. You just
Thought it.
Okay.
Hey, you
Talk
open
about
the
bad
door.
podcasting. Talk about bad podcasting.
Yeah, this is far better than what happened before.
False.
Oh,
Can I get my sleepers though? Because
would-
I got some good sleepers.
hit me.
Okay, the first name, and I don't want this to be biased or sound biased at all, but the dude that is going to absolutely cook in a couple seasons is Drake Powell from North Carolina.
Drake Powell?
That guy, Drake Powell.
Powell.
I was adding a nice little spice to it, you know what
A
I mean?
little zing on the end. I see you.
Reasoning for that though, dude's only 19 right now, so he's one of the younger kids in the draft. But he already shot 38% from 3 last season. He's got good size. He's versatile. He's already a decent or pretty good defender. So he's that prototypical 3-and-D type player, which any NBA team is salivating at the thought of. So he's my number one. Call me biased if you want, but I think he's going to be good. I think a good comparison to him would be Cam Johnson, another UNC guy from a couple years ago. I think projects similarly to him. I don't know where he'll get drafted. I think he's projected late first or sometime in the second. Second name, and it might sound familiar, Ryan Nembhard from Gonzaga. Dude's essentially a carbon copy of his brother, and you see how good his brother is. So I'm going to bank on the genes of the Nembhard family. That dude, and he's not projected until late in the second, if I'm not mistaken. That dude's he's gonna be a solid player. Maybe never turns into a starter, but he will be one of the first guys off the bench on a good team. And then my other dark horse, which I'm the least confident in, but I could see it. Mark Sears from Alabama. I don't even know if he's projected to get drafted, but for some reason, I keep thinking back to Jalen Brunson when he was coming out of Villanova. Obviously, he had a little bit more pedigree coming off the championships and winning Player of the Year and everything. But I feel like Sears' game is very similar to Jalen Brunson's. And the stature and everything, obviously, is a given. I feel like if he finds the right landing spot, there is an opportunity there. But yeah, those are my three.
He's going to have to develop more of an offensive game and correct me if I'm wrong. I think he got injured last year, didn't he? Kind of late.
That's rough.
So he's probably fallen to the second round, but I like those. I like those picks. I see you. Even Powell.
Powell.
What you got for us, Big Rob?
I gave my 2. So obviously, the guy out of Duke, what was his name? Fuck, man.
Knipple?
Yeah, Knepel.
I don't think that's a dark horse, though.
No, my favorite players in the draft. I don't really have any dark horses because this draft's so watered down. I also, one of my favorite players also, I think he'll go, I mean, some team might jump at him middle first, but I like Walter Clayton a lot.
That's more of a sleeper.
Watching him in March Madness and then looking at his stats for Florida, he was just a fun player to watch, man. Played with intensity. He made that game, the one we watched, and made it really good. I think him. Those are the guys I got right now, man. I don't got anything else.
All right, I'll hit you with the sleepers, and I'm sticking with this big man theme. All right, I already talked about one of them. I gave him his flowers again. Creighton, can't stand him, don't like him, but this kid's a good basketball player. Ryan Kalkbrenner, he's a 3 years in a row,
4-time
finalist.
Nope.
Or are you talking about the Big East?
Big East? Sorry.
Well, why don't you let me talk, and then you can chime in
That's
there,
fair.
baby girl. So he's a 3-time National Defensive Player of the Year finalist, and they finally gave it to him last year. He won the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Award last year. He averaged 20 points a game, 9 rebounds. He is Donovan Clingan, who came out of UConn a couple years back. Clingan. Okay. So anyway, I think he's going to be a steal, late first, early second. That somebody's going to really, really like. He's going to have to develop a little bit. And hey, this one is a super sleeper. It's just a player that I want to do well. I've brought him up before. A young man by the name of Hanson Yang, the soon-to-be 20-year-old, 7'2", 250-pound CBA all-star, baby. This kid's coming from China. Please, basketball gods, give us Yao Ming 2.0. Please. The league needs it. Those are my guys.
Kalkbrenner seems like he is a perfect fit for the New York Knicks.
They could use him. They definitely could use him. Kid can shoot the ball a little too, man.
Yeah, like they could definitely move Mitchell Robinson and his contract, and just fill it with Kalkbrenner. It'd be similar to what Cat had in Minnesota, a defensive-minded big like that behind him that can actually play defense.
Dude, that kid and Kalkbrenner, 2 years ago, averaged like 3.5 blocks a game. Mm-hmm. That's insane. Good for him.
Yep.
Speaking of, I do want to add on Ace Bailey. I read something earlier that Rutgers had him listed as 6'10", and at the combine he measured a little over 6'7". So I don't know if someone
that's
at Rutgers,
true.
I don't know if someone at Rutgers was fucking.
Right.
Hey, a little 2.5 extra inches, but yeah, they're saying I read it on a couple things that, I mean, you basically that he might drop a little just based on being 2.5 inches shorter than what people thought he was.
I thought he was going to drop for the fact that he's not working out with any teams.
They didn't want him to find out that he's 6'7".
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, he's going to be the ultimate.
Dude, he's got such a bust written all over him.
He's getting drafted 3rd, or he's fallen all the way to like 15th.
I think that is red flag central. I know if the Bulls take him,
hey,
God help me.
If we're talking a dude that loves to stat pad on a bad team, a la DeMarcus Cousins, it will be Ace Bailey.
There it is. Hey, Kings, give him a call. Pick him up.
Marcus Cousins is a dog.
All right.
You fellas want to talk some football to wrap up the episode?
Yeah, I think we can get through these.
You want to hit both of them, or we want to? one.
Let's do one and then get some shout outs going, huh?
Okay. You got a preference on which one?
Roll the
Dealer's
dice,
choice, baby.
baby. Dealer's choice. Roll
They're
the
both
dice.
dog shit, so.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, fellas. NFL team preview. Moving on to the AFC South. While you guys will have to wait another episode to get our opinions on Herb's Tennessee Titans, we will start off our AFC South preview with the team that makes no sense being in the AFC South, the Indianapolis Colts. Last season they finished 8-9, which was good enough for second in that dog shit division. Their big additions this offseason were adding the one and only Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, Charvarius Ward, Cam Bynum, who I'm actually very sad that the Vikings did not resign, and Khalil Herbert actually is now a part of that running back room. Departures, they didn't really lose a whole lot, unless you want to count Joe Flacco, which I'm not.
Elite.
The big one is Ryan Kelly, their starting center, and Will Friars, their starting guard, both moving to my Minnesota Vikings. So God bless to the Indianapolis Colts and their tight penny pinching draft. I think they had a really good draft. I really like some of these names. Tyler Warren falling to them is a no-brainer pick for them with how bad their tight ends have been the last half decade. Herb helped me out with the DN from Ohio State's last name, JT.
Yep.
Tiamula.
Something like that. I think that was actually decently close.
Hell yeah, go me. Really like that pick. Got him in the second round. Justin Wally, cornerback from Minnesota. You guys might not be as familiar with him. Dude's a dog. He is a ball hawk. And I know Indy has some question marks at defensive back, so I think that's a really good get. DJ Giddens, I think, running back from Kansas State, also a great addition. And then, just because we know the name, Riley Leonard was also drafted. So he'll probably slot in as QB3 because they don't have Ellinger anymore. So probably a practice squad guy there, but who knows down the road. But I'll turn it over to you guys to get your thoughts first on the Indianapolis Colts and what your expectations are for this upcoming year.
Listen, I don't want to sit here and badmouth the team formerly owned by Jim Irsay, rest in peace. But I'm going to. The last couple of years, the culture around that team has been god awful. You lost McAfee, for God's sakes. You lost your biggest fan entirely. Okay, the direction of this team makes no goddamn sense. And I'm going to talk about the QB position. Okay, I like the addition of Daniel Jones. He is going to come in and be consistent. He should be your starter. There shouldn't be a question. Anthony Richardson, get him off your team. Get him off your team immediately. I don't know that Anthony Richardson has a career in the NFL. He may be playing for the Michigan Stallions next year in the UFL for all we know. UFL.
Jesus
for all we know.
Christ.
Dude, I am so over this kid and his inability to be on a football field and lead on a football field as a franchise quarterback. You drafted him way too high. You took potential. You didn't take into account his attitude about football. I don't think the kid likes to play football.
I thought he had a great attitude.
That sure doesn't seem like it when you quit on your team in the middle of the game.
He did do
I
that.
thought his shoulder was literally hanging off the bone.
Nope. On that one,
He was tired.
he just saw himself to the sideline.
Oh yeah, I remember what you guys are talking
Yeah.
about now.
Yeah, and I think that does stem from the top. I think they made the wrong decision in signing. Is it Shane Steichen?
Yep.
Steichen, right? I don't think that guy is an NFL coach. I think that I'm really, really glad that the Indianapolis Colts are in my division this year because I'm going to go ahead and count those as 2 W's. The shame of it is that this roster is very well put together, in my opinion. I think obviously they're building towards something, but the head coach, the quarterback position, you're setting yourselves up for failure.
You guys want me to go, boys?
Show us something.
Colts are dog shit.
Jesus.
Bro.
back to you in the studio.
Big Rob over and out.
I mean, when I look at this roster, I look at the changes. Obviously, we like you said, Isaiah, we haven't seen many changes. I'm with Herb. I do like Daniel Jones to come in and be a. I like Daniel Jones. I thought with the Giants for a year or two, I thought there was potential there. I don't know if it was bad franchise or what. I'm not saying he's a superstar, but I think he can, be a bridge gap if needed to your next starting quarterback. Tyler Warren fell to them. Happy. That's a great pick. Outside of that, they didn't draft any starters, at least as of right now on the depth chart. Um, I do. I mean, I think they had. I think I do like Giddens out of Kansas State. I've watched him a lot in college. One thing I do want to add is they did improve in the secondary with Kenny Moore. They added Cam Bynum and Charvarius Ward, which are very experienced secondary players. But overall, I mean, RIP to Jim Irsay, but Herb said it, just the culture down there in Indianapolis. And obviously it was on the front lines because obviously if you watch any clips from the McAfee show, it's all there. And I think he reached a point where he couldn't hide it anymore. And then also, I know you guys saw the news, but what's the daughter's name that's kind of taking over? Is it Carly?
One of the three.
Yeah, one of the three. It's Carly. And the first news that broke out about good old Carly is that she likes to listen in and kind of phone tap the coaches when they're either coaching a game or things like that. Some people like it. She's had to defend herself and say it's not micromanaging. I'm just, checking in. I see it as the other way. I'm obviously in my job or any job, I hate micromanaging. She's going to have, she's been around football, I'm assuming, her whole life. But let the coaches coach. You hire them. You have potential. You're paying their salary. Let them do what they need to do. Don't go the Jerry route where you're just – there's a fine line there that you can kind of balance and, let the coaches do what they need to do. That's what you hire them to do. But other than that, I mean, there's really nothing eye-popping out of the Colts. I don't think they got tremendously better. Obviously, Tyler Warren's an upgrade over Mo Alley Cox. I think that is correct. Daniel Jones is serviceable. Other than that, I mean, Herb, I think you're right. Them being in your division is great, at least for the time being, unless we see some crazy moves. Outside of that, I mean, I don't have much to add for the Colts, man. I really don't. There's nothing. I like Michael Pittman, mainly because he's on my dynasty team. If he could fix his fucking lower back problem, that would be great.
True.
I like some of their wide receivers too. I do like Alec Pierce. I think Josh Downs has potential, but not when Daniel Jones is there. And then obviously you drafted Anthony Richardson, which I don't think we've touched on enough. A dude that's thrown, the stats when they're talking about how much he's thrown in high school and college compared to quarterbacks that are coming out. I mean, there wasn't enough tape on this guy. And you chose, if you would have took him in a late round, third, fourth, fifth round, and he didn't, for some reason he was there and he didn't work out, sure. But when you take a guy fourth overall and he quits on the team, the shoulder thing, I get, it's kind of getting old at this point. But when that news broke, and I know McAfee flipped out and other people kind of flipped out, when you come to the sideline on a third, I think it was third down, a second or third down, you're in the middle of a drive and you're like, I just need a breather. The fuck you do. The fuck you do.
You don't get to do that as a quarterback. You don't get to do that as a quarterback at all.
If you're somebody else and a wide receiver and you kind of tweak something a little bit, sure, hey, coach, I need one. But when you're the starting quarterback trying to win the game, you do not ask for a breather. Now, if it's a different scenario, like if you're the Saints and you got old boy coming in to do some Wildcat stuff, whatever. But that wasn't that. That was your quarterback essentially quit on you. And that speaks for the culture that was there. The relations they've had with the McAfee show haven't been great. It's just the culture there. There's just no swagger, man. And I don't know if I think it does fall a lot on the owners, and I don't know how Jim Irsay's been the last year or two. But I just think it was kind of just ran poorly. So until I see otherwise, I do have high hopes for Tyler Warren. I think he's going to be a good NFL tight end. Other than that, nothing else on this roster jumps out at me as far as additions or departures.
Okay. Trust circle here.
Mm-hmm.
Advice. I like to reiterate Rob's point. I really like some of the offensive weapons that this team has. Between Tyler Warren, Jonathan Jonathan Taylor, Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman. Don't forget Adonai Mitchell, first round pick or second round pick from last year. Like they have weapons. Trust circle. Are any of them actually worth drafting in fantasy this year though? That's what the people want to know.
Warren would be the only one that I would take a dice roll on, just because I know Daniel Jones or Richardson are going to be check down city. So, other than that, there ain't a lot of draftable play on the offensive side of the ball for the Colts, in my opinion.
Not even Jonathan Taylor.
Here's the problem, and here's the other problem with even the receivers. Their middle of their offensive line is rebuilt and makeshift at this point. I shouldn't say that about Quentin. It's more so the center and the right guard. Quentin Nelson's going to Quentin Nelson. He's one of the best guards in the league. But I've got some real concerns about that offensive line outside of Quentin. Even the tackles aren't blow your socks off tackles.
I think for me, I will preface this as saying I'm mainly a dynasty cat these days, so my decisions on fantasy are a little bit different than a team that resets every year. I do start looking heavily at fantasy come August when I start seeing that's when I do the drafts. I see a little bit more tape before then. Is Daniel Jones fitting in there? Have we seen some tape of him throwing to the receivers? A sleeper I do like is I think Alec Pierce. I think he led the lead or the team in yards and touchdowns last year. I think he has potential. Obviously, I've liked Michael Pittman. He just can't seem to stay healthy. I mean, remember that game last year where he got laid the fuck out. Not only that, but he can't get out of his own way when it comes to injuries wise. I think he has the potential, obviously. His dad was a dog in the NFL. I think there's potential there. It's just he can't get right. But to your point, Jonathan Taylor, I think is kind of a no-brainer. Do I think he's the number one or number two, number three back in the league? No, but if you can draft him, I think if he's there, I mean, I don't see it as a bad pick.
And I'm not saying that like he's undraftable, but I'm not taking him over a good 10 running backs in the league based off their offensive line and how that offense could very well fail.
I think Herb's expecting a very Najee Harris type season from Jonathan Taylor.
God, I hope not. JT. I think JT has put in the work to be a top back in this league.
I mean, he's coming off a 1,500 yard season behind that. I know Kelly's not going to be there, which is obviously crucial. But I think it was 1,500 yards and almost 15 touchdowns last year. Maybe.
Yeah, they're losing Kelly and Fries, which were a big deal because Fries arguably played better than Nelson last year.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying JT's undraftable. I don't trust that offense. I don't trust the Colts right now.
Fair enough.
Final predictions?
Fuck.
I'll go first.
Go first.
The Indianapolis Colts are going to struggle mightily. They may even start 1-8. I'm giving them 3 wins and a probably top 2, top 3 pick, if not the number 1. And they'll go ahead and go and find themselves a quarterback, have him sit maybe for a little bit of time behind Danny, maybe beats Danny. But it's a 3-winner for me out of the Indianapolis Colts.
I think for me, I think at least in my eyes, when I was trying to predict this, they finished 8-9 last year, which is, in the grand scheme of things, is actually a pretty decent year for that program. I do think they rescind a little bit. Obviously, there's a lot TBD with Daniel and Steichen in that offense. But the AFC South to me is like the NFC South was, I think, last year or the year before. It's a fucking it's a dumpster fire that I don't know what can happen. I mean, but if I had to sit here, I think they can win 5 games. I think they're a smidge better than the Browns. Because I think we're sleeping on that secondary and that defense a little bit that can kind of compensate. Um, I think 5-6 wins is kind of where I have them at. But don't be surprised if somehow they get 7.
Wow.
They're playing the Jags twice a year, playing the
And the
Titans twice
Titans.
a year. That's
Titans
4.
are going 2-0 against them this year.
No.
All right, mark that.
Preach.
Yeah, to Rob's point, you're trying to pick through shit in this division. So trying to predict records when 3 of the teams may not win 5 games makes it quite difficult. And I will show my hand a little bit. I still think that Indianapolis's roster is the second best in this division, in my opinion. How that plays out, wins and losses, is a whole nother question entirely. I do think Daniel Dimes will have, assuming he is the starter for a majority of the season. All this goes out the window if Anthony Richardson is starting. But if Daniel Jones gets a majority of games, I think 6-7 wins. And I can say that
Hell yeah.
correctly. I don't think that roster's bad enough to completely bottom out to be a 3-4 win team. But they're definitely not a playoff caliber team as they stand right now. But I think it's going to be a middle of the pack, 6-11, 7-10 type of season, which again puts you in kind of that purgatory area of the NFL draft of drafting between 12 and 18, where you're kind of in no man's land there, and it just kind of feels like they don't know if they want to fully pull the plug and go full rebuild, a la Andrew Luck again, or if they're trying to rebuild on the fly. There just does not seem like there's much of a direction with this franchise at the moment.
All right, boys. You fellas want to wrap it up with maybe a shout out of some sort or what's going on with y'all?
I got a hell of a shout out this week, boys.
What do you got?
Hell of
fellas?
a shout out.
Do
All right.
you want like a drum roll or something here?
No, you're good. I don't need a drum roll. It's not like
That's
that.
post production.
So the viewers at home probably don't know this, or maybe they've picked up on the fact that I've had some technical issues through the first 7 episodes. Right, there have been a lot of issues. So I went out and spent some money and tried to solve one of those problems by getting a desktop computer. Here's what I learned installing a new desktop computer and getting it all set up. Okay. And I'm going to shout out the guy who created it. But the USB cord deserves a fucking shout out after all the shit I've been through in the last week. And shout out to Ajay Bhatt, okay, who in 1996, came up with the USB port, came up with the USB cord. You think about all the different chargers that we've all had to have. You know it's never changed since its invention? The goddamn USB port, okay? So shout out to Jai Bot and the USB cord because it's been my one constant through this whole week.
I love it. For me, I gotta give a shout out to my wife, Rachel. It is our 2-year wedding anniversary today, this very, very day. I'm sitting here recording a podcast that's going to be listened to by about 10 people. So,
Hey, shout out the homies.
I got to shout out. Got to shout out my wife Rachel for letting me do shit like this, even on our 2-year wedding anniversary. So,
Shout
That's
out.
what I got for you guys. Shout
Hell
out.
yeah.
Big shout out.
All right, mine's I wanted to do it last week. I don't think we got around to shout outs. I think we kind of ran out of time. But what I had on my mind last week, man, was the air fryer. And man, is the air fryer fucking great, bro. The air fryer. Shout out. I want to give
Tell
a shout
'em.
out
Tell
to Fred Vanderway. He's a Dutch engineer. Created the prototype in 2006. Wanted to look for a way to cook food with not using oil. As a father, as someone that sometimes just needs a quick meal, whether it's healthy or not. I mean, chicken's good in there. I mean, the air fryer is trying to. It
Hey,
reminds me of.
don't act like you're not just absolutely cooking every tater tot in 3 counties in your air fryer. Don't lie to us now.
Pizza rolls #1 cooked thing in that thing.
I'm
Pizza
not.
rolls
No.
air fryer.
The biggest thing I cook in it is chicken thighs, without the skin. And my daughter uses it for everything under the sun, like you said, chicken dumplings, tater tots, whatever she wants. And it's also been convenient for her as she's gotten older to just bust up in the air fryer, throw it in, press a button, and let it cook. It reminds me of growing up. My parents had a conventional oven, which was those things that hang below the kind of. Some people had them on their counter and some people didn't. It was in between like a microwave and a toaster. You could do stuff in there too, but air fryer is amazing, man. I know you guys all have one. You probably use it regularly. Yeah, shout out air fryers.
Hey, we're giving shout outs to household utensils and technological cords. Fuck yeah, baby. We made it.
This is 30s, boys. This is what happens.
This is what happens. Isaiah doesn't know about that life yet.
You'll get there.
I'm the traditional type. Stovetop.
I thought he was going to say microwave. I thought he was going to say fucking microwave.
No.
If you would have said the microwave, bro.
Only thing I use microwave for is baked potatoes. Okay, you guys. Good episode.
Oh,
Good
yeah.
talking to you guys. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe on
Tell
the
your
episode.
dentist. Tell your dentist.
Tell somebody you know. Tell somebody you know who that you're gonna see tomorrow.
Tell your
to
side
give us a
chick.
listen. And we will catch you on the next one.